Righto, guys. Thank you again for giving us your time on a Sunday. Really appreciate this. Looking forward to going through another group call. Today we're talking about executing. Talk to me, Finn. What does executing mean in your eyes?
It's probably about getting the most out of like a race or a training session and doing it where you can just get the most benefit and finish it as strong as possible.
Yeah, right. So, like, if we were talking about a race, say, like an Ironman race, we want to execute well so that we can get to the end in the shortest amount of time possible that our physical capabilities can hold up. So that's what we're trying to achieve. Now, if I was to ask you, Lockie, I know you're sort of getting ready and stuff, but what do you think is more important? You reckon building fitness or learning to execute well? What do you reckon would be more important? There's no right or wrong answer. Just what are your thoughts?
For me, I'd say executing. Like just
Okay.
over the last week, I know I've spoken to you about it a fair bit with your testing and stuff. I think execution is probably just more important. Like if you are extremely fit and then you go into Ironman race, you execute terribly, then potentially you'll end up going way slower than if you were less fit but executed like absolutely perfect.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like I'm going to use myself as an example here. At Cairns, I felt like I was really fit. Like I was the fittest I'd ever been in my life up until that point, and I get there and I just butcher the race. Like I overbiked and screwed up my nutrition strategy, and then I ran just under a 4 hour marathon when I thought I was going to run close to like a 3:20. So that 40-minute gap solely on the run wasn't necessarily fitness. Fitness might have played a part in it, but it's like 90% executing, right? So we talk about 40 minutes in an Ironman just based off executing well. That's drastic. It's huge, man. So I'm not saying that it's necessarily more important, but it is absolutely important enough that we should be thinking about it constantly. Yeah. Now, next question, Finn, back to you, mate. What do you think is actually harder? Do you think building fitness is harder, or do you think learning to execute is harder?
Oh, that's hard. Uh,
I love an open-ended question. Have a
well,
go. Like, just give us your thoughts. There's no right or wrong
well,
answers.
without building the fitness, then you don't have an opportunity to execute at all. So,
I don't
probably,
agree with that. I think that, I mean, if we're talking Ironman, you're going to need to build some form of fitness, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
if we just talk about Joe Bloggs, random guy on the street, right, and we said to you, like, let's go and do an Olympic triathlon, right? No experience at all, he would still be able to go out, and if he executed well, like what we would experience well, he's going to do okay, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, go on.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like in training you sort of build execution as well. So like
Oh yeah,
with uh, I would say the training, like building that discipline and training, and then within that training, you're going to learn how to execute the longer sessions, and then
yeah.
that will sort of
They
converse
go
a little bit.
they go hand in hand for sure. Like you can't perfect execution without going and doing races or lots of training sessions, right? Lockie did one an FTP the other day, and I think is that the second one that you've done ever? First, you're on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, that was my first one.
First one, and man, and you always had to do it blind, didn't you? Because he couldn't see the Garmin computer, so he's just done this FTP blind. But you actually, funnily enough, executed it pretty well. So maybe that's a little lesson in something that maybe the data can ruin us a little bit. But yeah, back to the question of like what's harder, building fitness or of learning to execute. I mean, physically trying to build fitness is really, really hard, right? It's super challenging to build the fitness required to do an Ironman well. Learning to execute, while it's still really challenging, it's essentially like a mental thing, right? We need to, can we control ourselves? Can we understand what's going on with the body? It's not super. It's still demanding because we're going to have to do the training sessions and the races to do it, but it's maybe I'm not quite grasping this here. I think that executing the gains that we can get from learning to execute well don't cost as much as what it takes to build the fitness up. That's what I think.
Yeah,
Does
I
is
would
that
agree
correct?
with that 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can get so much benefit from just executing well.
Right. And a lot of amateur athletes, or a lot of age groupers, they come into the sport. This was definitely me at the beginning, and it's probably still me now at times. I come in and I think, right, the more I do, the more fit I get, the better I race. That was absolutely my mentality at the start, right? Go out, do as much as I can, get fitter, and then I'm going to perform better on the race day. And because Ironman is so long, there's so many opportunities to get it wrong, the execution, right? So now, like, strategy comes into play so much for me. And when I'm thinking about a race, I know I've done the training and that's hard, but I'm thinking, how do I actually improve at the race? How can I execute this really, really well? Okay. So yeah, it's just this whole call's about this. We're just trying to find the best ways to not only execute races, but execute FTPs, training, certain training sessions, everything. All right. They all require a different sort of a little method. Welcome, Jesse. Thanks for joining us, mate. Hope you're recovering from your run.
Feeling good, feeling good. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, good, good, good. Why don't you help us out here, mate? And why don't you tell us what good execution, and we can speak specifically about a race right now. Let's call it an Ironman. What does good execution look like?
Cool, Rob. Good execution looks like probably leads before the race. So, like the training that you've done, the confidence that you've ticked all the boxes.
Okay, so let's say we finish a race, and now
Yep.
I'm a coach, and I'm revising the strategy with you and going over the race. What would we look for to be like, we executed this well? What would we speak about and hope that happened at the race?
Probably numbers. Look at our numbers to see if we've ticked it all off from the race plan, but more like a feeling to make sure
Okay.
we've got enough energy through the race. Am I getting it right or am I failing?
That feeling one that you just mentioned is a big one. Yeah.
Yeah,
What feeling do we want to have in an Ironman? Like what do we want to feel throughout the race?
energized.
Anyone can chime in here. Dan, anyone else? Like,
Yeah, so I reckon what you want to feel like you're holding back the whole time, especially on the bike. You want to feel like on the bike, I'm riding a bit too easy here. I reckon I could probably go more, because I guarantee you won't be thinking that way 10 or 20 k's into the Mara. So I think the whole Ironman event is about execution, is about holding back, but constant pressure on the pedals and understanding and knowing where you're at. And I think that starts in training, figuring out what you can handle and what you can't. But I think only experience on the race day truly prepares you for what you go through, despite, like, I did some massive sessions and I still wasn't expecting what I got.
yeah, great answer. I love that. The only caveat that I would have to that is that I think the terminology used there was like, I would, you want to be riding easy to begin with. I don't like the word easy because nothing in an Ironman's easy. What I think of is I want to get stronger throughout the race, right? I don't want to feel weak throughout any part of this race. That's the ideal situation. There's probably going to be times where you do feel weak, but in an ideal situation, from the start of the race to when you get onto the bike to when you start the run to halfway through the run, you're feeling, I'm in control, I'm being patient, and I'm getting stronger, and I know that I can finish strong, right? That feeling is really important. And if you ever get to a point where you're hanging on, where you're struggling to hold the pace and the heart rate's now coming down and things like that, that is a sure sign that we're now not executing as best we can, right? And I'll go back to Cairns as my example. I got to 110 k's into the bike, wasn't prepared for the wind, and I was absolutely hanging on for the last 70 k's of that bike ride. I was in the hurt locker for such a long time, and I was going nowhere. I couldn't keep the power. My heart rate was stuffed. Everything was going wrong, and that is just so polar opposite to what it was like at Bustleton. Bustleton just got stronger and stronger and stronger throughout the entire bike, right? There was still hard parts. I'm not saying that like it wasn't, I felt effortless the whole way, but at no point was I haven't got another gear that I can move into, that I can push, that, and using caffeine and everything like that. So we want to feel like we're getting stronger throughout the race. That's the first thing. Daniel also touched on constant pressure on the pedals. If we look back at your data from an Ironman, and there are heaps of spikes up and then lots of lows and zeros where you're sort of freewheeling, that is a sure sign that we haven't executed well. All right. So constant pressure on the pedals while riding is a massive one. Absolutely. Obviously, it changes if we're doing a hilly course. You can't always have pressure on the pedals. But if we were doing Bustleton and we want to have constant pressure on, less spikes on the power and less troughs as well. All right. No one's touched on fueling yet with this, but like constantly getting the nutrition that you've planned in throughout the entirety of the race is execution like 101. We need to make sure that we do that. If you're getting to say 30 Ks into the Mara and you're starting to feel that stomach churning a little bit and you're like, oh, I don't want another gel, and then you skip on a gel, that's bad execution. Like, it's absolutely not what we want to do. We want to keep fueling how we've planned up until the last 3 kilometers. All right. So execution. And then little things like caffeine, timing, getting the right dosage of caffeine and timing the caffeine well, all contribute to really good execution. Have I missed anything there that maybe Brad or someone else wants to chime in on? What else might be good execution? No. All right. Cool. All right. Well, then let's move on then. And we're still speaking specifically like about races, executing races for now. What are some common mistakes? What derails good execution?
Definitely on the bike, riding too high and then too low, and not having the correct power ranges set that you're going to ride to if you ride to power or heart rate. And sometimes it's just overestimating your ability, which we all tend to do. So I think it's about having the humility to sort of go, okay, and that's what I'm at for Cairns. I'm not where I want to be, but I need to just back those things down a bit. Otherwise, I'm going to have a really rough day. It's about having your paces set on the run, knowing what they are and sticking to them, because I've made the mistake where I've gone out a little bit too hot and you pay for it. It's a horrible way to finish a race. So yeah, that's things for me.
You said the words then, go out too hot. And this is the biggest one for me. This is what really derails good execution, I think. If you go out too hard in the swim, if you go out too hard on the bike, if you go out too hard on the run, you will capitulate. It's happened to me, and it's so common for a lot of people. They get so excited, especially getting into T1 is one of the most exciting things ever. You get out of the water and you're so excited, and then you get on the bike, and I'm going to show you some data between Cairns and Bustleton for me, what my heart rate was doing in that first block on the bike, and it's drastic. But going out too hot is the surest way to kill your race, all right, in any of those 3 disciplines. So please, anyone listening, anyone watching this back, if you get nothing else from this call, try to just be patient in the beginning, all right, of the race, of each discipline. Just settle in. It's not going to be one in that first 10, 15-minute block, whatever it is. What else derails good execution? Someone else give us something.
Just not having the right sodium and stuff.
Yeah.
And during the
nutrition,
race. Especially
skipping out on nutrition. Love it.
Big race.
Yep. So sodium, that goes for carbs, that goes for caffeine, everything, right? If you skip out on nutrition for whatever reason, or if you get that wrong, derails execution, and it makes everything harder. Something like what about if we're on the bike and we're in a little bit of a group, we might be saving a little bit of power, and we're staying with them, but we're riding a little bit outside of our range. Could that potentially derail execution?
Yeah, 100%. If you just
high yes, no. High yes, low no.
Say that again. Elaborate for us.
I was saying, so if you're high, that's going outside your ranges and can cause issues later on. But if you're able to ride the same speed for your power number, but at a lower power, you're conserving energy. If you jump out from behind, let's say we're definitely on a 12-meter chain, because none of us are going to sniff wheels at 3 meters. Of course. But if you can be in a legal area in a pack and ride 10 or 20 watts less, as opposed to being out front and having to ride an extra 20 watts, absolutely save it. And that was a mistake I made in Cairns as well. I wanted to ride a little bit over to stay with someone and get those benefits. But in trying to get those benefits, it it didn't conserve the energy I wanted and needed to on that first out section.
Yeah, and it's such a fine line. It really is. Like I rode pretty much the whole Cairns course by myself, and I wish I had not done that. It really cooked me. But at the same time, like I know a lot of stories of people, trying to stay with someone else, and then all of a sudden realizing that it hasn't worked, and they're just really bonking, and then they get into that feeling of we spoke about it before, where you're just chasing, you're constantly like trying to catch up with what you're trying to do, and that's just we want to be feeling stronger throughout. So if you're pushing too much to stay with someone, it can cost you later on. Other things like ignoring your heart. Did anyone else have anything else on that before I move on? No. Things like ignoring heart rate. So let's assume that I'm in Kona, and normally I would run my heart rates at my long runs, and I'm planning to run at sort of like 158 heart rate for the majority of the runs. But I get to Kona and it's hot and humid, and the heart rate at the same pace that I'm expecting is spiking up around 163. Well, do I listen to my ego and go, no, this is my pace, I'm going to try and get it, I want to achieve my goal? Or do I realize that that's not going to be sustainable for 42 kilometers and have to pull it back and let go of that? That is great execution if you can do it. It's perfect execution if you can let it go and then bring it back to the point where you're like, nah, I'm going to sit at a lower threshold and keep the heart rate down. Cool. Anything else there? I'd love for someone here. I mean, I could ask Finn, I could ask Dan, anyone to share like a specific race story and how their execution went. You can give us a good one, you can give us a bad one. Brad as well, and I believe you raced last year at Busso. So yeah, someone give us a story of theirs that they'd like to share.
I could jump in there. For my Busso 100 race that I did for the run, I was always sitting around that high 150s, that to like low 160 heart rate. I knew I could always sort of step it up a little bit, but I was just trying to leave that to the end of the race. And then so I think I was like 14 Ks in, and I knew I just had that second gear I could lock into. As soon as I got into the last race, I just let it go, and that gave me heaps of energy still, and I didn't bonk, and I was just able to smash the last sort of 5-6 Ks at an all-out pace because I was a little bit more conservative at the start of the run.
Super important to be conservative at the start of all the runs. Really, really important. I say to all of you guys, when you get out of T2, the crowd's pumping, you're excited, there's usually music and everything. If you can do your slowest kilometer there, man, it sets your race up so well. It really does. So it sounds like it worked for you, Finny, and I would highly recommend that everyone just lets go of that first K, sit well below it'll feel ridiculously easy as well. But yeah, definitely. Anyone else want to share a story there?
Yeah, I can go with. Oh, sorry, go for it, Brad. You jump.
Go, Brad.
Yeah, in Busselton last year, coming out of T2 into the run, probably went out a bit hot, sort of like 4:45, 4:50 pace, whereas if I reckon I'd sat 5:15, 5:20, just eased into it. Because by sort of the 14, 15K mark, it started to, the pinch started to really hurt, and you definitely felt it. So yeah, I'd vouch for the taking it easy, and then building into the run. So yeah.
Dan, take it away.
Yep. So I've got a good one and I've got a bad one as well. So we'll go. Ever seen how people have done good ones? I'll go with the bad one. Actually, I'll go with one. I'll go with Geelong that just went where it wasn't necessarily execution, but it was just things went wrong, and I tried to deal with it as best as I could. So I went out with a plan to swim easy and had a really good swim. That was fine. On the bike, and I've never been disappointed when I've been conservative on the bike and the run. It's always ended in a result that's been good, but I've been disappointed many of times when I've gone slightly over. And at Geelong, I was happy with my ride. It was about 2 minutes slower than the year before, but I deliberately did that so I could get off the bike and run well, because I'm a better runner than I was this time last year. And I wanted to have a really, really good, strong run after having a couple of poor ones. Got off the bike, was feeling all right, running along, but my heart rate, so my first kilometre was the slowest. My heart rate was a little bit high for where it should have been. So I kept persevering. It kept going up. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to drop that down. So I slowed down my pace. I made those adjustments, and it kept climbing. So kept dropping that pace back, and I couldn't understand what was happening. I was having Achilles issues before I even started, and it got progressively worse through the whole thing. I kept slowing down. I pulled every single lever I knew to pull. Kept getting nutrition in, and it got to a stage going up the last hill. I was just cooked, and I ended up walking. I completely blew up. And it's one of those ones where I tried everything that I knew to try, but the
Is
one
there
thing that
something
I
that
didn't know,
sorry to interrupt there. Is there something that you would do differently, or what you would have liked to have done differently?
yeah, I had I've known, I would have done aqua bike.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
and I didn't know I had that at the time, but if I look back, it's poor execution not to realise what was going on, to sort of think, oh, the calf's just a bit tight. And if I had have, like, I haven't been able to run properly, and I've spent the whole time since Geelong building back up. And if I had have realised, I could have gone, okay, I'm not where I need to be, done the aqua bike and recovered that in 2 weeks instead of 10 weeks now. So,
Yeah, well, good analysis, and yeah, I love your way of thinking, Dan. You yeah, always on top of it. Jesse, I'd love to hear you talk to us about T100. I was there supporting on that day, and I'm keen to hear you debrief it now for everyone.
Good. A good thing to not get too excited in T100 is Alex just fucking geeing you up. So you come out and you're just, yeah, no, that's good.
We didn't help
It
you.
was, yeah, just probably getting too excited. Not from Alex, just more of just being out there. Which happened at my other triathlon race too. And I'm kind of in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to let it happen in Cairns. I just want to be like under excited. And then I just,
For a little
sorry,
bit of context for everyone before Jesse
sorry,
tells
mate.
us. No, you're right. It's fine. Jesse's used to play footy a lot, so he's pretty good at running. Right, running's his natural sort of discipline. Swimming and biking, we've been working on quite drastically, but we're heading into T100, expecting him to run really, really well, and then T100 happens. So give us the rundown from start to finish with the swim and bike.
Swimming went really well. Yeah, went a lot quicker than what I thought. And we,
Way quicker than we thought. Yeah. But
and
you
then,
didn't go. You seemed to control it well, didn't you? Like you weren't. You didn't come out like super flustered or anything. You just were quicker than what we thought, right?
yeah, I went, didn't feel like super challenging, which was nice. And then the bike was still felt really good for the first two because it was like 4 laps. So you go up and back, up and back, up and back, up and back. And going out was a tailwind, going back was a headwind. And for the first two, it still felt really good. And then I probably realized by the third lot of up and backs that I've gone out way too hard. And I could just feel my power dropping. And that headwind coming back was just, yeah, really, really tough. So, and then
And
off the bike, I still biked really well. I think my time was a lot quicker than what I thought. But then coming off the run, I felt like I bonked the run pretty bad. So I want to get a really good solid run in Cairns, but also just try and hold it back, like what Daniel said, kind of just hold it back as much as I can. But yeah,
there's nothing really that can prepare you and teach you about triathlon until you do it, right? And it's so common that you swim and then you get out on the bike, you feel like, oh, I'm moving quick, like I feel strong, this is awesome. You had an 80k race, Jesse, 80 kilometers on the bike, and you did 2 laps before you were 40k's in, and you were flying, mate. You were absolutely flying. You were riding like an aluminium bike, and I was like, "Fuck, he's moving real quick. This is wild." And then you start to say, "Okay, 40k's in." That's that feeling that we speak about, where now all of a sudden, instead of getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and leading into the run being like, "Here we go," we're now like we're getting stronger, stronger, and then 40k hits, and now we're like, oh, we're going this way now, right? And then from that moment, it to be 40k's in, so you still got 18k run and 40k bike, and you've got to sit in that feeling now for all of that. That is poor execution, right? And it's your first one. Like you'll learn heaps from it, and it's so good to practice racing and get out there and do it. But when I know that feeling. And then once you get off, you start running and you're like, great, this is my leg. I'm really good at running. I'm going to be sweet here. And you start running. And then all of a sudden that fatigue's crept up on you and you're like, it hits you like a ton of bricks. It happened at my first triathlon over in England. I was biking so fast. I was like, yeah, I've got sub 10. I've got sub 5 easy. This is going to be such a cruise. And then like the last 30K on the bike was hell. And then the first 7 kilometers of the run was torture, man. It was so bad. So everyone goes through similar lessons, mate, but I think you learnt heaps from there. And I think that if you had simply executed better, no change in fitness whatsoever, you save 10, 15 minutes. Like, I truly believe that. So good debrief and good one for everyone to learn from there. Anything else? Anyone else want to chime in with a story before I show you some data? Nah? Cool. Let's do it then. I've got a bit to show you. Let's just share the screen and we'll go from here. Oh, I've got my whisper flow that's getting in my way, Daniel. I was trying to click on the share screen. It kept popping up with whisper. It's funny. Right, can you see my screen, lads? Yeah, perfect. Okay, the first one that we're looking at here is Mr. Finn Howard's 180K bike ride recently. Huge effort from you, Finny. What do we notice about this purple line here compared to this purple line? Anyone chime in?
Yep, the first one, he's fixed up where he's got all the highs and lows, and he's smoothed that power delivery out. The ones that are going down, I'd suggest that's probably maybe turns in the road, traffic lights, things like that.
Okay, so this isn't Finn. This is a different athlete that I will not name because
right.
They're not here. So I'm just comparing to, they're both roughly, 4 hour 14 ride, 4 hour 46 ride. Obviously, there's a massive difference in kilometers. So Finn's been way quicker, and Finn's our strongest athlete here, right, at sub 10. So there's no surprise that he's quicker. But if we're just looking at data, what we're noticing, and Daniel just hit the nail on the head, right? And this little line here, it actually smooths it out, right? So I just want to confirm that both lines are smoothed out, are as least smooth as we can, right? To give it fair context here. So Finn's, you'll notice, is super, like for the majority, there's obviously some where he's dropping down, where he is probably going around turns or going up a slight hill or something. But for the most part, his power output is just super consistent. It's in this little window like this, right? Where he just stays in between there. His cadence is probably the same the whole way as well. We can look at cadence in a minute. But then the other athletes here, you just notice it's so much more up and down and a lot more time spent down at zero, right? This is pressure on the pedals. This is what Daniel spoke about before, lads. We need to make sure that when we're racing or training, for that matter, in everything, we are keeping constant pressure on the pedals that's consistent, right? It's in our range, right? It's a skill. It's not something that you can just jump on a bike and then just know. It takes a lot of time, a lot of practice to learn. And once you get a power meter, I think Lockie's just recently got his power meter. He's only just started. So he's only just started this process, right? It's going to take Lockie a bit of time to do this. But Finn's been riding for a long time. I've been riding for a long time. Daniel's been riding for a while. This is what we're looking for, right? We're sitting in between like a real small window of our ranges for a long period of time. We're down in TT. We're not shifting. That's what we're trying to do with cycling. Make sense? Any questions there? No? Do we want to have a look at
what's the sort of range he's sitting at there? Is it was it like a 20 or 30 watt sort of range, or
Finn, you can chime in there.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's usually between like high 230 to like 260, 270. So it does fluctuate a bit, but that fluctuation stays pretty consistent throughout the ride. You can actually see at the end of my ride, us starting to bonk, and my power was a lot more all over the place just because I couldn't hold like consistent power. I was getting energy, pushing a little bit harder, then had no energy, then my power was falling. But yeah, so probably like 30 watts.
Yeah. So the range, Brad, in the beginning, it doesn't really matter. What you're trying to do is see what the power output is like. Go on your training peaks, have a look at it, and then go, right, I want to try and make that smaller, right? And then you just go, if you can get it, if you could get it within 10 watts, great. That's awesome, but it's probably not going to happen, right? Especially not on a 180-kilometer ride. So it's just about wherever that sort of range is that you're fluctuating in and out of, we're just trying to squeeze it. We're just trying to bring it closer and closer, all right? But Finney, this is awesome, man, and this is why you're quick. This is a big part of why you can ride a bike really fast. Also, looking at his cadence, so he's averaged here, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but he's averaged 83 cadence. What do we think about that? Do we think that's good? Do we think that's bad? If we're looking at this one, the other athletes, that is...
What was the elevation?
It's in Bustleton, so...
On fins, so flat.
Absolutely none.
I think it's like 300 or something.
Yeah, it's not
300. Yeah.
Something like that.
Oh.
So zone two power, I'm assuming you were riding around zone 2, Finn?
Yeah, my heart rate was always like around 140 to 143-ish.
Yep. So we're zone 2 and zone 2 power. So I would say, 83. It could probably get a little bit higher on the flats. So, but it varies. Like normally on the flat, I'll be average around about 88 to 90. But that'd be at 70.3 power, and then it drops between 85 and 88 for a zone 2. So I'd say that you're pretty close on that, depending on elevation.
I think 83 average is pretty good. I mean, I think if you can get it to 85, 87, it's okay. It's better. But this other athlete here that we're looking at is at 76. That is too low, right? Especially if we were racing. We do not want to be riding at 76 cadence, okay? The other thing to consider here, though, is that this athlete did have about 1,000 meters of elevation over the 119 Ks. So that's a lot more hilly than Finn, which is probably going to account for some of these zeros and things like that. If we were to put the elevation on here, we would be able to see where it is. But as a general rule, the up and downs it's too much regardless, okay? Even if you're on a hill, trying to keep it consistently is what we're after. Cool. Any questions on that before we move on to the next ones?
Yep. What was Finn's variability index versus whoever this other athlete is?
That's a good question. I lost Finney's, so I'm going to have to go and find it. Just give me a tick. My computer glitched.
Do you know what it was, Finn?
No, he won't do, I don't think.
Oh.
We can just look though. So variability index, 1.00. 1.00.
Yeah, so that's a beautiful ride. So,
and then looking at the other one is 1.07. So we want this number to be as close to 1 as we can. Is my internet glitching out?
What does that mean? What does variability index mean?
Daniel, take it away. Can you help me out
right.
here?
Yeah, variability index is the difference between your average power and normalized power. Essentially, when you're time trialing, the variability index, you want to have that somewhere between 1 and 1.03. And that basically means that you got smooth power on the pedals without those big spikes and without those big downs. Whereas if you were looking at, say, a Tour de France rider or a crit race, they'd be up around 1.11 or something like that. So it's a really quick indicator to say, how smooth did I ride? And it can change with hills a little bit, but I've got a 180 kilometre time trial I've done with 2,000 metres of elevation with a variability index of 1.01. So at the same time, you can keep pressure on the pedals.
So that, just to clarify there, that 2,000 meters must have been like completely rolling the whole way. There's been any steep climbs and steep descents.
So there's some steep descents. It's a short steep descent. It's the same. I'll share it when I get home. I'll share it and show it because it's one of those ones I didn't think it was possible either. I'd been working on that same course for like a couple of months to smooth it out, and yeah, the first time I did it up, that's when the penny dropped of what you could actually do and what I thought was possible.
Okay, interesting. The ride that I did yesterday, 2,000 meters of elevation, 3 really steep climbs. The rest was sort of flat. I'm pushing a lot of power for those climbs and then freewheeling for 5-8 minutes at a time on the way back down. So my normalized power was 248 as opposed to my actual power average was 217. My variability index is going to be quite high. even though I still think I rode that course relatively well. Okay, so it's not foolproof. We want to be as close to 1 as we can, but as a general rule, especially if we're on flatter courses, we want to be as close to 1 as we can.
Yeah, so you're right there, flat or rolling, but you get hit like proper sustained hills. Yeah, that makes it tough.
Yeah. Cool.
Can I ask just super quickly with the cadence?
Yeah.
I think I ride like super low. I don't think I've ever got to like 80 or 85. I'm like, high 60s, low 70s. Yeah, is that why should we be going to 80 and like, yeah.
Great question, man. So when we're riding at lower cadences, it's working our muscles more, right? And when we're riding at higher cadences, it's working our cardiovascular system more, right? So if you're riding at say 70, then over the course of an Ironman, your legs are going to use way more energy than what your heart will, right? So we want to be able to save the legs in those big endurance races, use your aerobic system to do a lot of the work, a lot of the heavy lifting, so that when you get to the run, you're not completely cooked. Does that make sense? Does anyone else disagree with that? Want to add to that?
That's absolutely spot on. So otherwise you get off and your legs will feel like bricks.
All right, sweet. I'll have a look at my rides.
Yeah, and Jesse, like this is, I probably wouldn't coach like this now, but until about 2 months ago, I would have been saying to you guys, like, look, you're going to get a lot of gains from riding lower cadences. So this is just what I naturally did in the build up to Bustleton. I would naturally sit at like 75. It just felt comfortable. You can control the bike a little bit better. And I would probably be getting gains like compounding that my legs are getting stronger, right? But when I race, and this again just happened naturally, it's not like I intentionally sat at a higher cadence, it's just what happened. I was racing at sort of 85, 87 cadence, right? Because naturally I knew that my system here, my heart and my lungs could handle it, but my body felt that spinning the legs more was easier for my legs. So you're probably naturally doing it in training, and that's okay. But when we race, you might find that you'll just probably spin it. In fact, what I'll do is I'll go back and look at your T100 race and we'll see what your cadence was there, because I wouldn't be surprised if you were spinning it a little bit faster. So we'll do that after, all right? But really good question, dude. Really good question.
I 100% reckon if you have a higher cadence, you can put out power way easier. Like if you're talking out at 70 cadence, putting out 200 watts will feel so much harder than if you're doing like 80 to 85 cadence. It will feel way easier. 100%.
Yep, I do agree. And you'll probably find that in the race. Cool. I'm conscious of time and we've still got a couple to go through. If anyone has to leave, please just sign off. It's a Sunday. I don't want to keep you for too long. But I really appreciate you guys being here, and I feel like everyone's learning lots, which is good. All right, what do we got here? This is my Cairns. Yeah, I'll quickly show you something here. All right, so this is my Cairns bike and my Busso bike, right? These are the two that we're looking at here. So I'm not going to go too much into execution here, but you'll see that you'll notice that mine is a lot more spiky here than it is. Wait for the data. It's so slow. Sorry, guys. So you see how it's a lot less spiky at Bustleton. I mean, the flatter course helps and experience helps, and I was definitely fitter at this point. But what I really want to show you is this. Look at my heart rate from the time of the start of the bike. We're at 182, which is very, very high coming out of T1. You're always going to have quite high heart rate out of T1, but this is 180's pinging. And then if we go along the line at about, it's still at 160, 155, back to 170. Oh, no, actually.
That'll be Rex, look out.
Yeah, it's around there. But here, I think it's like somewhere around here. I don't know, I found it before. Yeah, so 25. This says 25 minutes in, I got my heart rate under 150 beats, right? So 180 to 150, it took me 25 minutes. Now, I would normally ride for an Ironman probably somewhere around 145 beats per minute, average beats per minute. So I'm using that number of 145 as the number that we're trying to get back to once we've started the bike, right? Took me 25 minutes at Cairns. When we move to Bustleton, still at 180 when we start, so still super high. And then after 9, I think it's 8 minutes. I think I found it before, somewhere in here. Let's just call it 9 minutes, right? 9 minutes we get down to, where is it? Let's do that. 12 minutes. 12 minutes, we're down to 145, right? That's half of 25 minutes. Now you think, okay, 12 minutes, what's that? Well, it's not the biggest deal if it's, only 12 minutes. But I was spent an extra 12 minutes above where I was expecting my average to be for the entire race. That is the difference between trying to get stronger throughout the race and getting stronger and then being like, oh gosh, here we go, we're going backwards. Okay. So the point here, this one is when you get out of T1, it's probably your heart rate's probably going to be high, RPE is going to be high, it's going to be frantic. Use the first 10 minutes, use the first 8 to 12 minutes to just settle the heart rate down, let go of power output. Don't worry too much about speed. Then once your heart rate's where you want it to be, lock in, find a rhythm, and then get to work. Because over the course of 4.5, 5 hours, 6 hours, depending on how fast you're racing, the first 8 minutes it doesn't matter. You're still going to be moving and you're not going to lose crazy amounts of time, but it can really cost you. Okay. So Finn, we've just had a chat without your race plan at Cairns, and the first thing I said to him is in that first 5-10Ks, you want to get your heart rate down to where we want it to be. All right. So same for everyone. Any questions on that one?
What did you do to get get control sooner? What was it what lever did you pull?
Good question. Less power. I also think that I had a little bit of help in the early stages of Buston, so that probably made a big difference. I found someone pretty early, and we sort of worked together in the first, 15 minutes. So that helped. Whereas Cairns, I just thought I was invincible. Cairns, I thought I could do this no matter what, and I didn't really care about anything else. I was just going to go out and ride how I felt was comfortable, and I made some big mistakes. Yeah. So finding someone helped, but more than importantly that I didn't worry too much about power in the first 10 minutes of Busselton. I just came out and was like, get the heart rate down, settle in. So it's not like I'm not moving. I'm not pushing any power, right? I think that's important to say. I'm still in a race, but I'm just nowhere near as focused at hitting my power targets that I am until after that first 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Yep. Love that answer. Yep.
Sweet. Good. I feel like we're all learning a lot. This is good. All right, I got 2 more to go through. In fact, who's this? Is this no, that's Max. This one's Lockie. This one's Lockie's test that he just did recently, which we've spoken about recently, mates. How do you feel like you executed this one again? I know you shared it with me, but share it with everyone else for me.
Yeah, I know I spoke to you about it, Alex, but I realized pretty quickly, it's kind of straight after the test that I fucked it up. I didn't really have any kind of gauge because it was my first run test in ages and I haven't run fast in years. So I started off kind of just under 4s. I can't remember how long it was for, but I think it would have been probably half the test, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I was going just under 4s. So like 3:54 average pace, I think. And then I just kind of was like, I think I just, in my head, I was like, I'm just going to send it and see if I can hold on. So I think I went to 3:40s and I was there for like, I think 10 minutes and then I just collapsed. I just could not hold it. My heart rate was obviously stupidly high. And like had to pull it back and ended up just above 4s, I think, to finish the run. So obviously that execution was not very good.
To be honest with you, Locke, it's not too far off, mate. Like we didn't nail it. It's not perfect by any means, but it's not anywhere near as bad as what you probably think it is. So this first half that's highlighted in blue, hopefully you can see this, is Lockie's first half of his test. Okay, and like he said, he was sitting at about 3:55 pace. Heart rate's already very high, probably. You do have a lot higher heart rate than most people, mate. We've spoken about your heart issues, or not issues, but yeah, getting a pacemaker and stuff soon. But so higher heart rate, but that's okay. First half, pretty good. If we ended up doing the whole test and I've got it here. Oh, I've lost it. Sorry. The whole test, he averaged 3:55, and the first half he averaged 3:55 as well. Yes, heart rate was higher, but he's around the mark. Okay. Then the third quarter, which I've got here highlighted in red, is where he thinks, and this is what a lot of people do, it's what I did in my most recent run test, is he thought, oh, okay, I can bump this up, 348. So the difference between 355 and 348 is a lot. It's drastic. And his heart rate's now at 193. Now, he wasn't able to sustain this, right? And you can see in the fourth quarter here, he comes down to sort of 412, 413 pace. And then he starts just hanging on at 404s to bring it home, right? Still ends up with a decent pacing threshold, 355. But this jump at halfway to go, oh, I'm going to go out and sit. He got up as high as 337s at one point, right? It's too much. And that's where bad execution happens. So he's actually still negative split the second half, but he's done the second half all wrong, right? If we can get to the second half and continue to slowly get stronger and stronger and stronger, and then keep pushing and finish strong, that's the ideal situation. And it's the same with FTPs. It's the same with Ironman, with 70.3s, with all the disciplines. We want to keep getting stronger and stronger. But nearly nailed it, mate. You really did. If you'd held off another sort of 5 to 6, 7 minutes and then started pushing into sort of 152s, you probably would have finished with around about 553-ish average. And, you would have felt a bit more in control through the whole ride.
I'll just jump in. Lockie, I did the same thing in my first test. I legit ran the wrong way, and at the end of the race, I was cooked. I had to ask some old people for their phone to call my girlfriend to come pick me up. So yeah, there you go.
It is very, very common, guys, honestly. But this is the sort of thing we spoke about at the start where, it's hard to build fitness and it is hard to learn executing. But if we can learn execution, once you learn it, like you will just keep perfecting it and you're just going to keep improving it and improving it. And you're just going to get faster and faster. And if you didn't gain any fitness at all, you would definitely still get faster in your races just by executing better. So all in all, Lockie, really, really good effort there, mate. I love your work. I think that might be the last one. Oh, I've got one here as well. This is Cade's. So this is just sort of explaining. So we're doing overgear bike here. So sitting in a low cadence, and Cade's gone out and done his on some hills. So you can see here, he rides low cadence. I've got one highlighted here already.
Is that outdoors or indoors?
This is outdoors.
Oh, they're very the hills are so perfect.
You know why? I was about to explain it. So just before I get into that, a little bit of a teaser for you. I don't know. So cadence is 60, which is very low, which is what we want for this. Probably even slightly lower than what we had scheduled, but that's okay. But he's going up a hill in a really high, in a low gear, and he's like, building heaps of strength. And he's going up and up and up. And then once he gets to here, he just goes back down the hill. And you can see he's not pushing any power while he's resting. And then he'll just turn around and go back up the hill. And that's why the hills look symmetrical, because it's just the same hill, I think. He's just going up, coming back down, and going back up.
Oh, okay, right. I've never seen that before, so I'm like, how does it get so perfect?
Yeah, so that's what he does. And then I was doing overgear, but I went to the velodrome. Now, mine is a higher intensity than his, but it's a much shorter period of time. So you can see here, I was sitting at 68 cadence. I find it if I was on a hill, it'd be a lot easier to get that lower cadence going. But you can still achieve similar things at the velodrome or on flats, wherever. You just have to, jump the gears up a little bit more and sit there. But it's same thing, 68 cadence, and you can do it flats or hills, whichever works. So that's just explaining that you can execute in different ways on different courses the same session. I think that's
Alex,
it.
can I ask why we go those overgear efforts and what benefits we're looking to get from that?
Well, it's the same. Good question, mate. It's the same reason as what we spoke about with Jesse before about why he's sitting in a lower cadence. We're wanting to build strength. This is replicating going to the gym in a cycling form, right? So if we were to go to the gym and do squats and all that, we're building strength in our legs. This is just how we achieve that by being on the bike. And I'm a big believer that if we know what's on the test, we should study what's on the test. So if we know we've got to cycle and build strength in cycling, then we build strength doing that. I also have now started going to the gym myself, but I don't think that's the lowest hanging fruit for a lot of athletes. So this is better, I think.
Yep.
Cool. Any other questions? I'm going to stop sharing now. But any other questions on executing? Anyone want to go through specific sessions, races, anything like that?
I think it's I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it's really important for me that I did the Gold Coast and then I actually stuffed it up myself, like, because then you learn. Yeah,
100%. Mate,
it's so important to go through it. The coach can tell you, but unless you go through it, you don't really understand it.
That is exactly right, mate. And everyone that starts, you're going to go through mistakes. But once, if you hear it from us and you hear it like in this call, then it happens to you, you're a lot quicker to go, oh, yeah, I get that now. That's what we was talking about. And then next time it gets a little bit easier, okay? So I think this has been a super valuable call, and I hope you guys have taken a bit away from it. And I can't wait to see some of you attempt perfect execution and get it wrong sometimes.
Even the pros get it wrong. Like Jamie Riddle, who's like one of the fittest people in the world, many of his Ironman races, or most of them, he's done. He's always bonked in the marathon. So even the best of the best can't always execute that well.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Perfect, guys. We'll leave it there. I'll stop the recording. We can stay on if we want, but just give me 1 second.